Sometimes it's hard to flip the switch, but just think about something that makes you happy. Today was my last day of school, 2-month summer vacation. So get those hands together. Here we go, here we go, here we go. We say that simcha paretz geda, that simcha, joy, breaks all boundaries. Going through emotions, we have to take all that emotions and use it for only happy things. Thank you, Rabbi Glatt. Thank you all for coming this evening. Thank you to Joanne Cozzolo for sponsoring this event tonight. To Dr. Joanne Cozzolo. So this is the last BI for this semester, for this season. We're finishing up with the book of Shoftim, the book of Judges. And we have quite a few events that end in the last few chapters of the book. Quite disturbing. We have a creation of an idol. And it's actually a uniquely Jewish idol. It wasn't an idol that was taken from the other nations. It was an idol that was created by a Jew and that was eventually adopted by the tribe of Dan, Shevet Dan. And then we have a tragedy that occurs that spurs on a civil war amongst the Jewish nation that eventually actually almost wipes out the tribe of Binyamin. While these events are recorded at the end of the book of Shoftim, the commentaries tell us that it didn't actually happen during that time. We know that the Torah is not a storybook. It doesn't go in chronological order. And they explain that this actually occurred right when they entered into the land of Canaan, when they're entering the land of Israel. And as the Navi, as the prophet states, that there was no leader, there was no king during that time, so everybody did whatever they wanted. They created idols, they worshiped them, they had no leader to guide them. And yet we're going to do tonight, we're going to try to learn and understand what these events, what we can learn from these events. I will talk about, making people happy, trying to always make people happy in relationships. And the rabbi will talk about how sometimes details in relationship are important or not so important. Thank you.
We're going to try something a little different this evening. We know that our sages tell us that the temple was destroyed because they did not bless before learning Torah. We've been doing a lot of Torah learning over the last number of months. It's been quite the journey, but it's important that we acknowledge the Almighty, that we thank God before we start learning Torah for giving us this incredible, unbelievable gift. So essentially, we're going to begin with a prayer of thanks to the Almighty for teaching us Torah, for bestowing the Torah upon us. And that way, once we have thanked God, then we can truly appreciate the Torah that we're going to learn. I give you, without further ado, Rabbi Glatt and the old friends.
Studying the Torah is not always enjoyable. Sometimes it's a burden. We ask God, make it sweet. Help us out. We want to serve you. Make it easier and easier for us so we can enjoy your Torah. Let's get a big round of applause for Michael and Moshe, clarinet and violin. It's not just about us, it's about our children and grandchildren as well. Hashem Elokeinu es divrei soidosecha befino beviyos al chavez Yisrael.
Thank you very much. That was actually written by our chazan from the High Holidays, Moshe David Truckee. This song was written by him. So a couple weeks ago, I was in New York visiting my mom, and I went to Manhattan, and they have a new department store. It's a very unique department store because they actually sell husbands. And on each floor, there's a different attribute. But there's a catch. As you go up on each floor, you can't go back down. You have to exit the building. So a woman goes shopping. She goes on the first floor, and it says, "Men for sale with a job." Wow, that's nice, a man with a job. Let's see what's on the second floor. She moves up to the second floor. Man with a job who loves kids. Wow. A great husband, a great father. That's wonderful. She says, let's see what's on the third floor. She moves up on the third floor. Man for sale. Man with job who loves kids and is good looking. Wow, that's excellent. You know, you need attractiveness. Let's move up and see what other attributes there are. Fourth floor, man with job who loves kids, who's good looking, and who helps with housework. This is unbelievable. It's like the man of my dreams. I got to see what's on the fifth floor. She moves up to the fifth floor. Man with job who loves kids, who's good looking, who helps with the housework, and who has a romantic streak. Oh, that's the ultimate. That is unbelievable. I've got to see what's on the sixth floor. She goes to the sixth floor. It says, no man available. You are the 7,653,000 women here, and this floor only exists to show that we cannot please women. Today I'm going to talk about making people happy. Everybody loves to make people happy. We want to make our spouse happy. We try to make the women happy. We try to make our children happy, our parents happy, our friends happy. We want to support their cause. We want to support their project. We try to do everything possible to make other people happy. It makes us feel good too. But at what cost? At what cost will you take to make your friend happy? Will you jump over the bridge? If you don't believe in the project that your friend is supporting, would you support that? So let's look at the last few stories that happened in the book of Judges and the book of Shoftim. We have the Jewish people are entering the land of Canaan. We have a man named Micha, and he actually steals money, steals his life savings from his mother. I mean, this is not an old concept. We have it today. We have quite a few people, unfortunately, they take advantage of the senior citizens, their finances and so on. So here this man completely took his mother's life savings. But he was a good man. He was a good religious Jew, and so the next morning, he feels bad. He goes, what did I just do? I just took her whole life savings. It's not right. So he goes to his mother. He says, Mom, sorry, here's all your silver. Here's all your silver coins. This is yours. And she tells him, I was saving all this up to create an idol. I wanted to make an idol out of these silver dollars. Many of us have retirement savings. We save up a lot. And then when we come to retirement, you want to go, we want to travel the world, we want to cruise, we want to join clubs. But back then, it was all about spirituality. She wanted to connect to God. She wanted to connect to Hashem. And the way to do that, she felt, was to make an idol, to have an intermediary. She wanted to touch something. She wanted to have something physically in her hands to be able to connect to Hashem, to God. She was coming close to her end. She wanted to put all her life savings and create this idol so she could connect to God. And so Micha, her dear son, wanted to make his mother happy. So he takes his silver to the silversmith and creates this idol for her. And not only does he create it, he says, I'm going to bring it to my home. I'm going to take care of it. He was an incredible man, this Micha. He was a guy full of kindness. Everybody knew him because when you ever passed through the city, they knew to go to his house. He had an incredible achnasas orchim. His house was always open to guests, whether to sleep, to eat. They knew they could stop at Micha's house. And then one day, this young lad comes over to his house, and he says, where are you from? He goes, I'm from Shevet Levi. He happens to be the grandson of Moses, of Moshe. And he says, wow, you're like God sent. I'm looking for a priest to minister this idol. Can you be the priest of this idol that we have in my house? And the boy, he's looking for a job. He says, great, I'll be paid with lodging and food. Why not? And so he becomes the priest of this idol, of Micha's idol. And as I mentioned, this is the time when the Jewish people are just entering the land of Canaan, and we have the Shevet Dan, who is the last of the tribes who actually conquered the land. And so they're looking for a land to settle into. And so they send off 3 spies to look and try to find a land, and they go into travel, and they stop at Micha's house like everybody does, and they see this idol with this priest, and they have this little chat. What are you doing here? I'm looking for land. So he says, gives them blessings, no problem. You'll be successful in your mission, and he gives them the blessing, and they go off on their way. They found this land called Laish, and they see that it's a very passive kind of people. It's easy to conquer. They strategize. They go back to their Shevet, to their tribe of Dan, and they said, okay, we found the land that we're going to settle in. Let's go. And so they gather all their men. They go and conquer this land of Laish. Very easy takeover. And they are like, wow, this idol really helped us. This is unbelievable. We have to go say thanks. So they go back to Micha's house, and they go to find the priest, and they thank him. But then they say, you know what? We want to take him for ourselves. He was the reason that we got this land. We're going to bring him back to our conquered land, and we're going to make him our God. And they capture the priest along with him. Micha can go up against the whole tribe, so he allows them to take him, so to speak. And as the Navi ends, they go on to serve this idol for years and years. How did such a thing happen? The Jewish people just left Egypt. They were saved by God. They heard God's voice. They heard the 10 Commandments. They saw all these miracles. They came, through the desert. They came to the Promised Land, and yet they just heard, do not build idols. And yet they go ahead and make their own and make a god of them. How did they come to such a low? How did they come to such a disgrace? How did such a thing happen? So let's look at the process of how this happened. Micha, as I said, was a Baalei Chesed. He was such a kind person. He wanted to please everybody. He wanted to please his mother. Maybe he knew what his mother really wanted to do. And maybe with all her life savings. So maybe he decided to take away it all so she wouldn't have money to build this idol. So he was really trying to protect her. But then he woke up the next morning and says, what am I doing? How can I go against my mom? This is what she's been saving for all her life. I have to support her. And so he goes ahead and does it. And not only that, but he takes it upon himself to enter it into his home. He does everything to please people. He opens his home. He opens his home to strangers. He does everything in order to make people happy, in order to make his mother happy. But at what cost? He compromised his values. It said clearly that he wasn't comfortable with the fact that there was an idol, right? Maybe that's why he stole all that money. He wasn't comfortable with the fact, but then he got used to it. He just wanted to make other people happy, but to what extent? Many of us want to help people. We always want to do the right thing. We always want to, help our friend, support them, but at what cost? I had a friend, Brian, who was running for student council, and he was soft on BDS. He was soft on Israel. And he asked me to support him. But I knew, I'm a strong Zionist, I know how important it is to have strong support on campus. I know what it is to fight for Israel. It's to their existence to have on university the need for the support for Israel. How could I support him? How could I support how could I vote for him? But he's my friend. How could I not? So I said to myself, everybody has a right to run, to be a candidate. So let him, I can endorse him. I can endorse him if he wants to run, but I won't be able to vote for him because it doesn't align with my values. His softness for Israel does not align with my values. I will not compromise my values to vote for him. The other day, we had a young woman call us and asked us to help her. She just came to Canada from Israel, and she was having some immigration issues. She needed some help with her work permit. And I looked at the rabbi, and I looked at each other, and we said, what are we supposed to do here? We believe that every Jew should be in Israel. Every Jew's place is in Israel. If they, for whatever reason, can't be in Israel and they're outside in the diaspora, then they should be advocating for Israel. They should be supporting Israel. But essentially, every Jewish person's place is in Israel. How can we support her? We asked her. We said, "Why are you leaving? Why'd you leave Israel?" She couldn't give us an answer. So we knew deep down that even though we knew Canada was a great place and has a tremendous support for Israel, we couldn't. It was killing us that we couldn't help her because we said, Israel's the right place for you. There's a probability that you'll marry a Jew there. There's a better probability. You'll have better Jewish education. Or she's going to get lost here in Canadian culture. Every Pesach, we get a call to help somebody, give them a ride to the Seder. We know how important it is for them to be at the Seder. This is maybe the one time they come to Shul. But yet, how can we assist them if it doesn't align with our values? How can we assist them to help them drive to Shul on Yontif? We never ask people how they get to Shul. Pesach, Yontif, Shabbos. We know at the end of the day, everybody walks through the front door, and we welcome them. But we can't, if it doesn't align with who we are, with what we believe in, we can assist them with that. And it hurts us because we believe that they should be here. We want to help them be here, but we can't help them get there. When that at the end of the day, everybody needs to ask themselves what their value is, what their core value is, what their core beliefs are. And when your friend asks you to support their project, their mission, their cause, you have to ask yourself, does it align with my beliefs? Does it align with am I compromising my values to support my friend? And you have to really assess yourself. You have to be aware of where you're standing. You know, when your parents ask you to go out to a non-kosher restaurant, are you okay with that? Is that what your belief is? If you know that, this is the one time, we have in the Aseret HaDibros, we have the tablets have two sides. And the Kibbud Davar Emes comes right before the Kibbud Shabbos. It's side by side, because this is the one time where you can disobey your parents if they tell you to not follow the laws of your Father in heaven. This is one time you can tell your parents, listen, I can't, this doesn't align with my core values, this is what I believe in, I cannot listen to you. And this is what Micha failed to do. Micha failed to, all he did was try to please his parents, tries to please his mother, tries to please everybody in his life but he compromised his own values. He didn't even know where he was anymore. He caused such a downfall to the Jewish nation. He was a Machti Asarab, and not only did he create an idol, but he caused others to sin. And so he lost himself. He went to a spiral downward. And so what you need to do is you need to ask yourselves, when you are supporting your friend, your family, anybody in your life for a cause, for a mission, to whatever it is, you need to ask yourself, take a step back and say, what is my value? What is my belief system? Does it align with who I am today? And I wish you a lot of strength in doing that, because I know it could be very difficult sometimes when it's not something that you believe in, but you want to be there for your friend, for your mother, for your father. So much hatzlacha, and we only have simcha together. Thank you.
So everyone, hands together. This is a fun one. This is the speed. Watch me. time. Everyone, hands together. Thank you very much. Thank you. This next song that we're going to sing is just a quick story before the song. It has to do with the song. It's a personal story that I would just like to share with you all. This story goes back a couple of years, actually. I believe it was my first year here in Edmonton. I got some very disturbing news. A friend of mine, somebody I grew up with. We went to yeshiva together. We went to camp together. We grew a very strong bond. Unfortunately, he was diagnosed with liver cancer. I went to visit him, and the prognosis in the beginning was optimistic, but eventually it started taking over, and then the doctors eventually got to the point where they said there's not a whole lot we could do for him. There was one more desperate treatment that they were able to perform. They thought maybe there was a chance. It was a 1 in a million, but they thought maybe they could save his life. They flew him from where he lived in Las Vegas to New York. And the one who sings this song on his original album, you know the name, he is a brother of our chazan here for the high holidays. His name is Yaakov Shweki. He sat in his room in New York and he sang this song with him. It's a song beseeching Hashem for a refuah shalema, a complete healing. Unfortunately, my friend didn't make it. He passed away last year. But we know that those tefillos, those prayers were not in vain. Everybody sitting together, heartfelt, turning their eyes heavenward, davening, praying to God that he should have a recovery. Maybe those tefillos are going to go to some other member of his family who need a recovery one day. We don't know. But no tefillos, no prayers are in vain. We all in this room know somebody who's suffering from an illness. Please join together with me. Think about these words. They're powerful. We turn our eyes to God. We say, you, Hashem, these are your children. These are your nation. Please help us with our physical ailments, with our spiritual ailments. Help us have a complete healing. somebody who needs healing. Keep that person in your mind, and those prayers will go straight up to heaven.
Guys, Rabbi Glatt and the old friends. Wonderful, wonderful. Before we moved to Edmonton, we lived in Borough Park in New York. I don't know how many of you have been to Borough Park, but Borough Park is quite something to see. It's really Hasidic central of North America. And how we ended up there is a long story. We're not quite Hasidic, but it was a lot of fun. It was a couple of years of a lot of fun. There is a quaint restaurant in Borough Park that is really a central hangout of the locals. It's called Moshela's. In our building, there was an elderly couple, Yankel and Sprinzer. Yankel and Sprinzer would frequent Moshela's. Anyway, one time Yankel and Sprinzer were at Moshela's, and Sprinzer was her regular self, kvetching about everything. You know, she would come home and we would say, "How was Moshela's?" Kvetching, kvetching, kvetching. So she's sitting at Moshela's, she's about to order, and she says to the waiter, she says, "It's so hot in here. Can you turn up the air conditioning?" He says, "Sure, of course, of course." He goes away. And a few minutes later, she says, "It's so cold now. You know, turn down the air conditioning. I'm so cold." He says, "Yes, yes, yes." Anyway, eventually she gets her meal, and she's, no thank you, nothing. And the fellow sitting at the next table, he thinks, how rude. He calls over the waiter, he says, "What a chutzpah. Why didn't you just throw these people out of your restaurant? What chutzpah that they have. How could they talk to you like that?" He says, "Look, I want you to know, dear sir, I appreciate your comments. The first thing you got to know is the rule in our restaurant is we have a strong customer focus, and the customer is always right. The second thing you got to know is the truth is, in our restaurant, we actually don't even have any air conditioning. Tonight I'm going to talk about our relationships and the little things that set our relationships astray, send them off the deep end, and what we can do to avoid those little things and concentrate on the bigger picture. What we can do to avoid bringing external influences into our relationship, external stresses. And finally, making sure that we're not overly sensitive in those that we're dealing with, that we don't overreact to some of the things that our loved ones say or do. At the end of the book of Shoftim, the book of Judges, there is a Levite. This Levite lives in the area of Mount Ephraim. He goes off and finds a bride, a concubine, from the area of Bethlehem. Anyway, the marriage is a little rocky, and one day, they've had enough of one another. She leaves him, goes back to her parents' home, and it takes him 4 months until he finally says, you know what? I wonder how my wife's doing. And he travels to his in-laws, and they welcome him in. It's about time you've shown up. And he says, I'd like to take my wife back. No, you got to stay with us. And he's there a couple of days, and he says, I'd like to take my wife home. No, you must remain here. Another day goes by. No, you have to stay here with us. Finally, on the 5th day, it's getting late, and he says, I'm taking my wife home. And his father-in-law says, what are you doing? It's late, it's almost the end of the day. You can't travel now. He says, enough with this delaying, I'm taking her home. And off they travel. Now, they pass by Yevus, which later becomes Jerusalem. But they say, you know what? We're not going to stop here. This is pre-Davidic times. It's still a Gentile town. They say, way too dangerous. We're not going to stop here overnight. They stop at the next town called Giva. Giva is a Jewish town in the area of Benjamin. And they think, wow, a Jewish town. This is a good place for us to spend the night. They stop in Giva. They go into shul. What do you do when you come to a new town? You go to shul. You hope you can meet somebody. Nobody invites them over for a meal. Nobody invites them over to stay. They're devastated. They go into the town square. They sit on the park bench. And they're just looking at one another forlorn, not knowing, what do we do now? And an elderly man is walking his dog. It's the evening. He stops. He says, who are you people? Haven't seen you before. They said, well, we're passing through. We went to shul. Nobody wants to have us over. He says, no, you got to come and stay at my place. It's dangerous. This is not a safe town. Stay at my home. They say, sure, thank you very much. But no sooner do they arrive at the elderly man's home that there's banging on the doors and the windows. The inhabitants of the town are shouting, send out the people that we may know them. The poor concubine, the poor bride, leaves the house, is violated. She has the most awful night that you could imagine. By the end of the night, she keels over and dies. This Levite takes his wife's body, takes her home, and writes telegrams, packages, sends to all of the tribes, and he says, this is what happened when we passed through Benjamin. Does this happen in the land of Israel, amongst the nation of Israel? The elders of all of the tribes are aghast that such a thing could happen. And they call upon Benjamin. They say, hand over to us the perpetrators of this heinous crime, that we may do justice with them. Now, in those days, there was no leader over all of Israel. There was no king over all of Israel. Each man did what was just in his eyes. And the Benjaminites said, no, they're our tribes people. We're not going to hand them over. Who do you think you are? And so the rest of the Israelites said, if so, you are all guilty. You are all culpable. You are all partners in this heinous act. And the tribes as a whole waged war on the tribe of Benjamin. Now, this war is a bloody war. This is a civil war in Israel, during which time tens of thousands of Jews are killed. The tribe of Benjamin is decimated. Only a handful remain. To the extent that at the end, the Israelites vow that if this was the way the Benjaminites could act, we want no part of them. Nobody from any other tribe should give their child in marriage to a Benjaminite. And so it went for a number of years, till eventually the book of Judges concludes with the festival of Tu B'Av, the 15th of Av, the Shidduch festival. That's the day that the young men and women would go and dance out in the field and find their marriage partner. And the Benjaminites realized that we're almost done. This tribe doesn't exist. And the elders of the other tribes said, woe is to us. We may no longer have a tribe called Benjamin. But not wishing to annul the decree of their forebears, they decided that they would not say anything to the Benjaminite young men and women, and if they chose to, they would simply join the crowd in the field and once again be replenished as a tribe, so that the tribe of Benjamin continued to be a tribe amongst Israel. I mentioned that the marriage between this Levite and his concubine wife was a little rocky. What exactly went wrong with their marriage? So the Talmud gives us a couple of opinions. One opinion in the Talmud is that the fellow was they're eating dinner, and he found, it's happened to all of us, he found a hair in his food. He found a piece of hair in his food. And he got so enraged that he threw her out. Another opinion in the Talmud says, no, it wasn't a hair, it was a fly. There was a fly in his food, and so he threw her out of the house. Now listen, I want you to understand the impact of the words of the Talmud. Because of a little piece of hair or a little fly, hundreds of thousands of Jews were killed. Because what happened? He sent her away. They ended up only coming back at night. She was violated. She was murdered. And as a result, a tribe was almost gone from the nation of Israel over one little hair, over one little fly. And the message of this story from the Talmud, this explanation from the Talmud is so clear. So often in our relationships, we let little things take us over. We make a mountain out of a molehill. Sometimes they're just petty. I knew these brothers that didn't speak for years over a tiny little thing. One wasn't happy that he wasn't invited to a birthday party it's crazy. And it spiraled out of control till for years they weren't talking to one another. One little thing in a relationship, and the relationship was over. How do we allow such things to happen? The story is told of a young, newly married couple. The rabbi had married them recently, bumps into them in the street. And he says to them, how's married life treating you? They tell him, well, you know what, for the most part it's okay. But we have this one thing that kills us every day. He says, look, come to me in the office tomorrow and let's discuss. So the next day they meet. He says to them, what's the problem? What is it that's killing you? What is it that's ruining your day? They say, Rabbi, it must be just our different backgrounds, because the husband says, I grew up in a home where when you're getting to the end of the toothpaste, you squeeze through the toothpaste, and you have the kind of squeezed tube of toothpaste that gets you to the end. And she says, well, in my home, we would actually roll the toothpaste tube. And, I know, Rabbi, it sounds ridiculous, but each morning, you can imagine, each morning we wake up, and it's just, I see the rolled toothpaste, she sees the squeezed toothpaste tube. It just kills our day. By breakfast, we're not talking to one another, and it's just downhill all the way from there. And the rabbi strokes his beard, and he says, here's some Talmudic wisdom for you. I want you to go out and buy 2 tubes of toothpaste. So I said to Rabbanit, I said, help me think of some other examples of what it is, petty things that people do in their marriages that irk one another, but really not a big thing, a little piece of hair that you should be able to get over. I said, not the obvious silly things like, leaving the seat up. I mean, that's obviously nonsense. And Rabbanit says to me, no, it's not nonsense. It's a big deal. She says, every time we have guests, and the men, obviously men, leave the seat up, I say, Baruch Hashem, thank God I have a husband that puts the seat down. I says, wow, seriously? I says, is it that big a deal? I mean, look at it from the husband's perspective. Look, I have no problem putting the seat down. That's how I was brought up. But look at it from the husband's perspective. Maybe what his thinking is, every time she leaves the seat down. Now, this could be a real issue. One wants the seat left up, one wants the seat left down. It's a problem. It's a problem. And Rabbanit tells me, it was a real problem. I mean, she grew up, father, 5 brothers. She says her mom got so used to it that every time now she leaves the seat up. I said, so what would you do? What would you do if a couple came to you and they're fighting over seat up, seat down? She says, well, you just give them the Talmudic wisdom. You're just going to have to buy 2 toilets. But so on and so forth, the little things that we get angry about, that bother us in our lives, that if we could just get over and it wouldn't ruin our day, why do we allow these things, the little things, the little hairs, to become hundreds of thousands, a terrible lifetimes of weariness, of stress? The other opinion in the Talmud that says that it wasn't a hair, it was a fly. What's the difference between those 2 ideas? Well, think about it. Maybe you could blame the hair on this concubine bride, right? It was a piece of hair, she should have watched out. But the fly, how can you control a fly? The fly wasn't her fault. The fly flew into his dinner externally, had nothing to do with her. And yet he still got enraged. He still said, I can't deal with this anymore. And the idea of the fly, friends, is sometimes things come from outside, external, things that we can't control, and we bring them into our relationships. And we allow ourselves to be destroyed in our relationships when it has nothing to do with the other person. You might come home from a long, hard, stressful day at work, and you're suddenly screaming at your spouse, you're screaming at your kids, you're letting it all out on them. Is that fair? It's not fair. All day long, you were this kind, gentle soul. You were somebody that could take it all in. You could absorb it. You never lost your cool at work. Of course, you never lost your cool at work because you held it up, bottled inside, till you could take it all out on your family members. Is that fair? It's not fair. It's not fair. It's like the fly that's coming out. It's not their fault that the fly came in. Not their fault whatever happened at work that day. Now you're taking it out on your family members. Now you're taking it out on your parents when you speak to them, your siblings, your next door neighbor. They didn't do anything. All these problems happen at work. How do you resolve these? A couple of ways you could do it. Maybe you stop at the way home and go to the gym. Let it all out. Release that tension, release that energy, release that stress. I'll tell you one way that I find very helpful is davening. Davening mincha or saying some Tehillim, saying some Psalms. Because you're talking to God. You're asking God when you're praying that he should let the divine flow of energy into your life, that he should bestow goodness upon your life. And you think to yourself, whoa, I'm full of all this angst. I'm so angry. I have this ill feeling. Well, how can I treat others like that and expect that God is going to treat me calmly, treat me peacefully, treat me with tranquility? And so I find when I start davening, suddenly I have to let it all go. I have to let those defenses down. I have to get rid of that anger so that I can be one with God, and then I can be one with everybody else. But let's turn the tables a little for a moment now. So he gets all angry, whether it was a hair, whether it was a fly. She looks at him. She says, how dare you? I slaved over this dinner. And this is the way you treat me? And she gets up, she storms out and leaves, doesn't call him for 4 months. And I want to look at it from the other perspective. Because all too often, those who we love say something to us, do something to us, and we take it personally. They scream at us, and we take it personally. How dare they? What did I do to deserve that? Well, you did nothing to deserve it. Had nothing to do with you. Had everything to do with whatever went on at work that day. They're taking it out on you. But don't take it personally. Just let them vent. Part of being in a relationship is allowing, being there to be a sounding board, to be almost a beanbag, but just don't take it personally. It's not you that they're screaming at. It's you who've been put into that relationship by the Almighty to be able to help them deal with it, to calm down, to chill. But the moment that you take it defensively and you say, how dare you, and you scream back at them, you've lost it. No point to that. Then it just becomes the end of the relationship, even though that fly had nothing to do with you. That fly wasn't your fault. That external pressure had nothing to do with you, wasn't your fault. And yet you allowed it by taking it personally, you allowed it. You allowed the relationship to break down. And whether this is your children that you're dealing with, difficult, adolescents deal with a lot of stress and tension through those years. Whether it's your parents you're dealing with. And parents, sometimes we've got elderly parents that may not be as with it as they once were. Sometimes it's siblings dealing with their own family lives that we have to navigate. Don't take it personally. Be there for them. Show that those flies are not going to affect you and your relationship with them. My blessing to you all is that we don't make mountains out of molehills. That you take the little things in your relationship, those little things that are bothering you, and you say, it's just little, it's minor. It doesn't have to ruin my relationship in any way. That you keep those stresses, those external flies outside the house. You find ways to de-stress before you come to dinner. And that when you find that your loved one is stressed in any way, don't take it personally. Know that you have done everything right, so you are there simply to help them and be there for them.
All right, everyone, grand finale. You all know this song. We're not done. We're not done. Everybody just remain seated.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming. Consolo for sponsoring this evening, and for all the sponsors this past year. We look forward to seeing you again in 5776.
Thank you all. It's been a wonderful ride that we've had over the last number of months for our first season of PI at BI. Thank you all for being such strong supporters, such wonderful supporters. This has been an exciting first season. Of course, next time we move into the book of Shmuel, the book of Samuel. We looked at first the book of Joshua and then the book of Judges. For 5776, we are going into the book of Samuel 1 and Samuel 2. We will begin sometime either during or after the high holidays. I want to thank Lilia this evening for preparing our refreshments and invite everybody to join us in the refreshments following this final song. Thank you once again to Rabbi Glatt and to the Old Friends Band. Thank you all. You guys are fabulous. Thank you to Stephen. Really, you're wonderful. You know, Stephen has been here since last night. Well, not completely since last night, but last night for hours, setting it all up voluntarily. And, you know, we couldn't do it without you, Stephen. You're really the glue that holds this whole PI at BI together. Thank you to Jared on the video. You do an awesome job. This is really a team effort, and there's lots more that others could do in terms of taking part. Please do let us know, and let us know if you'd like to sponsor a PI at BI in the year 5776. It's really been wonderful. Thank you to all our sponsors over the year and for pulling it all together. And, of course, Luba in the office for always making sure that it does come together. Thank you all.
There's no way I can top that. What are your feet? Let's go, let's go. Last one of the season. Let's make it a good one. One more time. Let's go, let's go. You got the whole summer to rest. שכולנו יחד, ישבונה חזקה בגלל הפחד. לא ליפול, לא נרד, כי אנחנו לא לבד, יש לנו השם אחד. לא ליפול, לא נרד, כי אנחנו לא לבד, יש לנו השם אחד. Thank you so much.